Go ahead. You don't have to worry about making it a week for a long rest because you got that.
Am I live? All right. I don't know how this is going to work. It is super loud. Super loud in here, even though, as you can see, it's a quiet Sunday. Let's see if I can get this mic. It is a quiet Sunday. Quiet, but like a lot of these rooms, it's loud. But we'll see. We'll see what we do. I don't really know what to do. Hey, Brian Smith, I am in this room. I am in the room. Hold on a minute. I can actually check this out. Hold on a minute. Watch this hot nonsense. Hold on. Where is it? Hold on a second. Where are we going? Where are we going? All right, hold on. Ooh. Panning the room. Panning away. Panning away. So I am. Hold on a minute. Oh, can I quite? I don't think I can quite get my hand over there. Oh, can it swivel all? Hold on. Let me see if this will swivel all the way over to get me. Oh, it's coming. There's the mic. And there I am. Hi. And I'll swivel it off of me. Max. I think I could probably speed up the gimbal, but that's okay. All right, let's get everyone else in there. So there are about 3 games. 3 games playing at the moment. Well, I rolled dice. Why am I not rolling dice? I rolled dice yesterday. Yesterday I rolled dice. Let me know if you can hear me okay. I can probably adjust the mic. I have some things in there to try to reduce the background noise. It sounds really loud to me, but it might not to you. But I think it's an interesting challenge for these kind of AI algorithmic things because it's all dialogue. It's not like I'm by a generator or there's a air conditioner or a truck rumbling or a plane. It's people talking. So I'll be curious to see how the various little cleanup tools, if they're able to clean it up. So yesterday, first of all, let me shout out DM Tales, aka Wes, who invited me to the con. And I did post a link yesterday to where I think he had me on his stream during the con, which was against that backdrop I just panned over to. He was really nice, and he ran Into the Odd, an adventure of his own making, whose name I don't remember. It's somebody's Folly, I think it might be. I'd never played Into the Odd before, so it was a really fun time playing. I think it did. He ran the system very well. I think it seems to me. I mean, he's writing an adventure for it, so obviously I think he's pretty comfortable, and that comfort level comes through. I think he ran it really well as a con game, and I think I'm always with those kind of games. I always think they really work as one shots. My question is always about, do I want to play a whole campaign of this? But as a one shot, it was a lot of fun. I rolled up a guy, and the way it works Into the Odd, we just rolled up our characters. I rolled pretty well stats. I think I was above average. I think I had a 12, 11, and a 9, so a little bit above average, or maybe I guess about average, more or less. And but I rolled one for my hit protection. I rolled 1, but the way it works Into the Odd is they have these a table where you essentially, I don't know if you take both your like your highest attribute, your lowest, something like that. So they basically references your attributes to then give you your starting kit. And I think the way it works is the less health and stuff you have, or kind of the worse off you are, generally speaking, with your kit, the better stuff you get. So you start off with better equipment because you're weaker, which is a really cool way to do it. I really like that. Just in terms of an equalization, right? Because a lot of stuff with this system is rolling under your stats. That's basically, it's a roll under system, or at least the way Wes ran it is, and I'm assuming he was doing it by the book. It's roll under. So if you're disadvantaged in those various stats, you're going to have a tougher time. So give yourself some better equipment to start. seems like a cool trade-off. Well, what I ended up getting for my trouble was an Arcanum, which is a magic item. I don't know if they have spells, just spells. I don't remember if I read Into the Odd or it's been forever. In any case, but I had this, and I got this Wand of Frost or Wand of, yeah, I think a Wand of Frost, I guess. And it doesn't have any charges, so you can use it as often as you like. And what I think was very cool by Wes is he was very open. I think I maybe only used the wand in combat once. What I was using it for is a lot of kind of environmental effects. So things are coming up through the cracks. I froze the crack. I was kind of using it like I was like a sort of Timu Iceman, where I'm freezing stuff up. There were some angry kind of fish things in a pond, so I froze the pond surface so he could get through. And he was very, he's very just kind of like, oh, that's great, it works, and kind of going on. And I think particularly, it's a one shot and your kind of system, it's kind of nice. It's just sort of open. Like I could see in other games where you'd want to start looking at the fine print of, does it do this? And I think in some games, some circumstances, like in a longer game, in a con game, or in a campaign game, I think having some kind of specificity might be cool. Hey, thank you so much. My ear trumpet. Um, but in terms of a con game, kind of playing a one shot, you're just using it. There was plenty of stuff that tried to kill us in the game. So it's not like it was overpowered necessarily, but it was just a kind of nice, open, Into the Odds, very rules like kind of system. And I know that talking to Wes about it just briefly, he really likes that about it. That's just very easy to get up and get going. You're kind of rolling under the combat. It's that system where you just do damage, but then also, of course, things also damage you, which is interesting. I like it, but it's not without its kind of quirks. I guess I'm not sure. So there was one creature. It was a huge worm thing, and to be fair, I don't know if we actually were supposed to fight the worm thing, but we did because we get as part of this kit. Everyone got all kinds of kind of bonkers equipment, and one of the players had a bomb. Their character had carrying around a bomb. So we get to this area, so we're walking around this kind of deep pit, and we know there's something down there in the pit. I think we see a little smoke. I think we even hear some kind of noise, whatever it is, rumbling, grumbling. And he decides, and of course, I don't know how it would have gone had they chosen otherwise, but their opinion was that, okay, whatever this thing is, let's see if we can prevent it from chasing us down from behind or surprising us. So I'm just going to drop the bomb down there and try to destroy it. And we determined the bomb had a fuse and that we could do it. So the bomb did some damage, but didn't kill it. And this thing came rising up out of the pit. And it was a big worm with a big mouth, and it had these tentacles. I don't know what technically the creature was, if it wasn't Wes's own creation. Whoops. But so it comes out now. The tentacles, I guess, are on the kind of missile. Are they? They had. I don't know if they were. Again, I don't know if they were kind of reach or if there was a melee attack. But in any case, the way Wes ran the tentacles was what you could roll to essentially dodge. You could make a dex save to dodge out of the way of the tentacles, which we actually rolled really well, and we rolled our way out of some trouble. So the tentacles, but then the big mouth. He ended up in I guess in melee, or just said, well, I think he's close enough to you. It's going to attack you. I think at that point it just does damage. And given our low levels, there's you have no chance. Now it was funny because I was talking to one of the players was one of the Nintendads. So I guess shout out to them. I only got to meet the one of them we played with. I think they have a YouTube channel on Twitch and stuff like that. He was talking about how deadly he felt Into the Odd was, which was interesting because from my point of view, it gives you a lot of chances, though not without cost. I think actually it's a pretty good balance because you have this hit protection, and your hit protection comes back every time you move rooms, which is interesting. There's part of that I like a lot, and there's a part of it I don't like. So you get this hit protection number, which is like your hit points, but when you get down to 0 hit protection, you don't die. But what ends up happening is that's when your attributes start to get attacked. From what I understand, you don't get those back. So you're surviving, but then you're getting dinged down. Now maybe there are ways to get it back in a campaign. Obviously, in a one shot there aren't. So if you have, and I think it goes against your strength. So if you have a strength of 12, like I did, okay, so I had one hit protection, which means if you hit me twice, I would take a point, drop my hit protection, then I'd start getting my strength to start going down. I don't die until my strength gets down to 0, but I know there are points. I don't remember exactly. We were rolling for kind of injuries. I think that can make things kind of worse. So the fact is, at least in the short term, those attribute drains are, for us, they were permanent because we weren't going to have a chance to go and rest or do whatever you had to do to get back strength. But at the same time, if you can get through a combat, you move rooms, you get those, your hit protection comes right back. Now, not your whatever your attribute damage, that's permanent, or at least in our case, quasi permanent, short term permanent. And since everything is roll under stat, you can end up in a bad way. And one guy, in fact, it was one of the Nintendo I was playing. He finished alive with 1 strength. He was down to 1. And it was pretty fascinating because there were a couple of times where he just had to make rolls, otherwise he was going to die, and he made the rolls. So it was like, oh, and it was kind of fun because he just kept sort of surviving by the skin of his teeth. My guy with the 1 hit protection never got hit. So I managed to, the few times I was in the direct line of fire, I made some rolls to get the heck out of the way. And other than that, I was kind of hanging back, content to use that rod of frost or whatever, that wand of frost to kind of do stuff. Now, the hit protection, like I said, I like it. I like that it regenerates when you move. And I think the reason why I like it is if you end up in not that this happens all the time, but you have that kind of 5e sort of thing where it's like, oh, if you get it on a rest, or if you have something, oh, it's going to regenerate on a short rest. The party's likely to short rest everywhere, right? That 1 encounter a day kind of thing where you're going to go and you want a short rest. Oh, let a short rest. Oh, short rest. By having the hit protection come back where you actually move rooms, it's pushing you to move. If you sit in combat and your hit protection's knocked down, you can't get it back by just turtling up in that room. It doesn't actually help you. You have to move. So I like that a lot from that standpoint. But the room part, it's always a little bit where I kind of I don't love the bringing in the kind of meta thing, because what is a room? If you're in a huge, like, why does it matter? It's kind of like I don't know, if you had 3 rooms that are all 10 feet each, or you had a 50-foot room. So if you're saying if I move across those 3 rooms because they're rooms, I would get back my hit protection. But if I was in a 50-foot or 60-foot or 80-foot, but it's one large chamber, I don't get it back because technically I didn't. Like, what is a room? It's kind of like, when does the encounter end? If you say something like in 4th edition had this, so it's like, oh, an encounter power once per encounter. But like, what is it? Like, how does that make sense in the fiction? Like, what's an encounter? Like, and when does one end and one begin? If you decide to run from some goblins and then there's some orcs in the next room, is there a point at which your encounter breaks? Is it all one encounter? And I know there was actually a lot of talking about that back when, at least when I was playing 4th edition, in terms of when did this encounter end? Do we get to get our encounter powers? I know you're supposed to take a break in between, but sometimes effects would last till the end of the encounter. It's like, well, when does that encounter end? Because this effect might last, whatever. So I don't. I would feel better if you could word it in a way that kind of had that spirit to it, maybe, without just having this kind of meta thing of a room. But I like the idea that it pushes you to keep going forward and keep exploring you, and not just do the kind of one fight adventure day where you got to go fight, rest, fight, rest, fight, rest. Pushes you to keep going. So I like that. I like that a lot. In terms of I guess I don't know if I really finished my thought on it, but the auto damage combat is kind of interesting. If you're fighting for the players, I can see how it's kind of fun. I will say it's a little, like, I guess it's better than not missing. I don't know, better. I'm not as big on the, like, well, nothing bad. I mean, sometimes you got to miss to hit. I don't know. I'm one of those people. It's like, well, when you're playing a sport, sometimes, baseball, sometimes you strike out. You don't have to make everything. It's not like in baseball they say, well, if you don't in 3 strikes, then you can try running to first and you still get to try. I mean, maybe from a if we're just doing fun, yeah, that's so no one's ever bored. But I don't know. I don't mind that. I think when it when it becomes everyone's when that becomes, I guess, like they would in baseball itself, so they would go through different eras where they would move the mounds up or down, change the balls because it would swing too far. If nobody can bat over 300, that's a problem. That's too many strikeouts. It's too hard to hit. Of course, if everyone's batting 400, you're like, it's probably too easy to hit, and so you find that balance. So this idea of saying, okay, well, everyone's going to hit all the time, it's fine. I think in terms of like, well, you could never get upset because you never won't hit. I mean, I guess, but then I think maybe the goalposts end up being moved, and if I'm doing ones, if I'm rolling ones for damage all the time, does that have the same problem? But maybe you'd say, well, you're not going to do that. The odds of you rolling one a bunch versus missing a bunch are probably different. So I don't know, but it feels fine, right? You're just like, oh, I'm gonna hit you with my wand, and I don't have to roll to see if I hit you. I just hit you. Now everything's doing like a D6 or D6. I think someone had a D8, like a magic sword did a D8. So you're not doing. There's not tons of damage happening here. I don't know if there's different scaling that's going to happen, or if everything's just always going to be D6, D8, whatever. So that feels pretty good. But then you get that huge monster. And now we did defeat it. We did defeat the big worm. I think it helped that we used the bomb. We did have one person die. That we had two deaths. One, this is the only one that happened during the game. The other one happened kind of as an epilogue. They had some kind of, I don't know if it was a potion, some kind of smoke mist, some kind of device that it would make somebody be basically just, it would erase them from reality, and they wanted to toss it to someone to erase them. And I think Wes, as the GM, said, if you just roll a d20, as long as you don't roll a 1, you're fine. If you roll a 1, then you accidentally get yourself. And of course, they rolled a 1, so it's very funny. They erased themselves from reality. So I suppose 2 deaths, though I guess technically the person who was erased from reality never existed. So I guess they couldn't have died, right? Because they were literally just erased. So maybe it's still 1 death. But in the worm scenario, if you end up in melee with that worm, you can't. I'm not sure what you can do. There's like I can envision. I'm trying to think in like ye old kind of D&D-ish sort of game. I can envision some kind of tactic, and against, I don't know, maybe not a full-fledged dragon, but I don't know what this kind of worm thing would be. But you can try to get something that's bigger and stronger than you, and kind of work it in a way to maximize your chances. Now, granted, you might say, okay, if this thing hits me, I'm dead, but I can give myself X, Y, and Z modifiers to try to get my armor class up so it won't hit me. I'm not sure how that works with the like, well, you just get hit. Because with those kind of, when you get to something that's big like that or high enough level, and again, I don't know if it was just a big creature or I don't know how they statted them up, but it was just know the amount of the hit it could give you was enough to kill you, and if it's just going to hit you, then you're just going to get killed. I don't know ultimately if that just changes the game into like, well, yeah, you can't bow up against something in your, not that anyone had any plate mail on them, but you can't put your plate mail and shield and take your chances saying, well, if the guy hits me, I'm dead, but he's going to have to roll maybe above a 16 to hit me. So I'll take my chances that I've got a 40% chance or 35% chance or whatever the chance is, or I've got, maybe a pretty good chance. So I'm going to take it because this is just like, well, my only chance is that he's going to roll 1 on a bunch of dice. And even then you're taking the damage. So it's definitely a different way of working it. I haven't read Into the Odd. I don't know what Into the Odd says about how creatures should work or those kind of attacks, and maybe the intent is just, yeah, it's gonna kill you. So don't fight with giant worms. And we certainly weren't trying to, but the giant worm ended up. I think we didn't communicate our plan well enough, or we were confused about where we were. But we ended up, unfortunately, we kind of tried to plan it that we would drop the bomb on the worm after we were kind of where we at the exit essentially, so we could leave the room. But somehow it turned out that we dropped the bomb, and the worm ended up between us and the exit. So we were forced to fight it, and we did. We did fight it, but it wasn't really our intention. But anyway, it was just kind of, it's just interesting in terms of how these mechanics, right? By changing that, how damage works, how hitting works, it makes you think about these combats differently. And I'm not saying if we were playing, say, BX and we ran up against a troll or something, we're all level 1, that we probably would have been like, oh gosh, probably would have been running away too, unless we were trapped. But we also might have had somebody, we might have had a way to try to work out a plan, some kind of tactic to give ourselves a chance at the troll if we absolutely had to. The way Into the Odds working, I don't know if we just had to do it differently, like we'd have to ambush, be at range, so we could try to pelt it down with missile weapons because they're going to hit automatically before it gets, like, I'm not sure what the tactical move in Into the Odd is, but it's interesting that it's different. Now, granted, we didn't have any heavy armor. I don't even know if armor exists in Into the Odd. Nobody had any. So I don't know if that would make any kind of difference at all. But, those are kind of, I guess those are sort of my thoughts, as it were, on playing. I'm just going to take a little bit of water here for the working man. But it was fun. It was fun. It's definitely the, I guess I would say also the, what would we say, the setting, the implied setting around it might be explicit. Pretty gonzo, right? So someone had like a bomb. I had a wand of frost. Somebody else had some kind of erase from memory device. Someone had a pistol. I also had a club. And these are the kind of things I think in a campaign game I'd want to know more about. Or like I just want to know like what the coherence is. I don't care for one shots. Like it's all good. Like it's like if we're like Time Bandits. If you remember the end of Time Bandits, where the team just brought in all these different people from different parts of different time. They brought in cowboys and a Sherman tank and a spaceman and whatever, they knights, and they just all, and we come together. Like that's great. Like go, right? I'm down with that. And that's kind of how this game felt. If we're playing a campaign, I think I might need some more help to understand how all this fits together for me, because I think the kind of Time Bandit sort of setup as a conceit for one shot is great. As a conceit for your whole campaign, I might need a little bit of help with. Speaking of which, I talked to Ron. So Ron from Page, aka Philadelphia Area Gaming Expo, was here yesterday, and I got to sit down with him for a few minutes. Just introduce myself because I last minute I got a pass. I had reached out to him for a pass, and he was generous enough to give one to me. And so I just wanted to come and say, hey, like thanks, and like I appreciate it, and whatever. And I mean, I'm going to go back next year. And I was talking to him, and then one of the people that works with him has been in the industry a long time and actually worked on Torg. And Torg, as I've mentioned before on the stream, is like this really fascinating game to me because I always see it around, but I could never find anybody who actually had played Torg. So getting to spend a couple minutes with somebody who actually worked on Torg was pretty cool. And the connection here with what I was just saying about Into the Odd with Torg is that Torg is essentially that a kind of cross, this kind of melding of all these different genres. I guess Numenera does that a little bit too, but I think obviously Torg came out way before Numenera did, and you're not switching worlds. It's I guess the elevator, which, and I think that's why it's fascinating, because when I hear this elevator pitch for Torg, I'm thinking like, why, this sounds awesome. Why aren't more people torging around and talking about it? But that there's some kind of beings or something comes down and Earth is invaded, and it's cut up into different realms, and those realms essentially are different genres. So you'll have one area it's kind of fantasy, and one area that's sci-fi, and it's not that clean. And I think from what he was telling me, and I just don't remember the words, the names that he used, because he was naming out these different, but there's different aspects that kind of maybe melding genres a bit. But there was like, oh, there's a cyberpunk area and there's this area, and like, oh, that seems really cool. Now I don't know how obviously I don't know how good a job it does melding those together. And he mentioned that Torg is now, I guess, has a different publisher. There's a newer version of Torg, and it's supposed to be really good. Or he was saying it seems really good. So I might try to get a hold of it, to give it a read, because it seems really, now. I mean, I can just picture the lettering, the logo type in my brain. But seems like it'd be really cool to give it, because it seems like something that's really maybe was ahead of its time at the time. I know that was always kind of my dream with GURPS, was to just meld a whole bunch of stuff together, to have like supers and fantasy stuff and people with pistols of all in one one game. I know Savage Worlds and some other games have also that same potential, but I never actually played any, and I don't know if they ever. I don't even know with GURPS really if they ever melded stuff together well enough that you could do it and it not be really clunky. So I'd love to see if Torg or what Torg's answer to that is. And he also said that Torg had some mechanics that were kind of ahead of its time and were adapted by other games. He mentioned Savage Worlds also in that regard. So it might be nice to see it. But Ron was really nice. Um, I'd asked I'd asked him about Runehammer because we're kind of I mean we're in Palmyra, New Jersey, which is really close to Philly. I mean, I think 10 minutes from downtown Philly. I think there's one or two bridges here across. Is it the Delaware, the Schuylkill? I can't remember the name of the river that flows right through here. Anyway, Runehammer's places here. I might, if I get out of here, depending on what time I get out of here, and I'll have to check to see where Runehammer's store is. I might try to swing by there to see it out, but I had mentioned that it didn't seem like Runehammer, even though you have all these kind of cons around the Philadelphia area, he doesn't seem to go to anyone. I mean, he mentioned that maybe that he didn't have an answer, but he mentioned that just maybe it wasn't his thing or whatnot. But it's a shame because there's so many cons around here, and I noticed he doesn't do anything. I mean, he doesn't have any presence with his store or anything, and maybe he just doesn't need it. I don't know. But I was thinking I'd love to kind of see the store, so I might try to swing by there later since I'm around here, and then I'm going up to Studio B this evening. And it's funny because I traveled an hour or so south of the city, and I need to go north of the city. And I checked the timing. Okay, if I leave from my house to go to Studio B, and if I leave from here to go to Studio B, and it's only like a 10-minute difference, which is so annoying because that just is just about the fact that the New York traffic just sucks. At least, I was gonna say at least from where I am. I mean, it pretty much sucks wherever you are, but like even though I'm starting an hour south of home, more than an hour south actually, the fact is that if I drive up through New Jersey, I can make up that time because it would take me about the same time just to get out of New York City. That's pretty much the super annoying bit. And I have some stuff that I brought with me, like this microphone that I'm using. It hopefully sounds okay and is relatively um, as isolated as I can. I can tell it's not super isolated, but I'm doing the best I can. But hey, look, on the flip side, not it's a quiet Sunday, but folks are having a lot of fun. Folks are hanging out, playing games, being loud, and okay, you want this room. If you can't tell, it's just like I don't know what it would be, like a community room. I can see, you have different things here, but the ceilings are relatively low. It doesn't have any good acoustics or anything. Sounds fine. Okay, great. Because I haven't used this microphone in forever because I kind of have. This is kind of a test run too to see if I might do more things like this when I can. Oh, I'm in a tavern. All right, well that's good. Sounding like I'm in a tavern is a very fantasy on brand thing. So that is good. That is good. Because I'm kind of in one case this is kind of a test. When I was talking to Wes, aka DM Tales, we talked about coming, and then I was thinking of some things to do here, and I just kind of dropped the ball. I don't know why I didn't think about running a game. I should have just said I'll run a game, but I didn't. I don't know why. Maybe because I think I was coming in late. I'm not sure. And then I just had dropped the ball. And then when I talked to him finally last week, I was like, all right, I forgot to get back to you with anything. Like, what do you want me to like? What can I do? Um, and he had mentioned that he was going to have this kind of video corner if I wanted to come and set up here. And I said, oh yeah, sure, that's something that I can do. That's great. Um, and unfortunately, this con, so Ecclesicon, and if you're in this area, New Jersey, New York area, you're not obviously not in northern New York, you're not in Rochester, but if you're in kind of the this kind of New York, New Jersey, Connecticut area, I think this is a fun. There's a bunch of little cons around here that are a lot of fun. But what happened was I was so this con's 3 days, but the Friday is just in the evening, 5 to whatever. And I couldn't. I'm working, I'm doing stuff, and I'm like, I don't want to drive an hour and a half just to stay for a couple of hours and drive an hour and a half back, kind of thing. It just was like I kind of had stuff I want to do at home. Like I can't make them, so I'll come on Saturday. But then on Saturday, aka yesterday, it was my daughter's talent show at her school. So she's a senior in the. She's going into middle school next year. So this is her last. She's switching schools now for the first time since she started school. This is the first time she's had to switch schools since daycare. She's finishing up 5th grade. So this is her kind of senior talent show. She's never done the talent show before. She's never really shown interest in doing a talent show. But one of her best friends kind of got her fired up to do it, and they decided to do it. And that was yesterday afternoon. And they start the talent show at 4. So I got up nice and early to get here. I got here, wasn't quite sure what to do. I didn't know what Wes looked like. One of these fun things that happens to you when you meet people online. You don't necessarily have, maybe you see them, you might listen to them, or you do, you're on social media, but you're not, maybe not watching their videos. So I didn't know what Wes looked like. And so then I came up, and I knew I couldn't stay that long, because I'm like, well, I got here like at 9 or so, and they were just starting the sessions, and Wes says, oh, hey, and he just kind of invited me into session. So I played. That was the end of the odd game. And that went from, I guess 9 to 11, something like that, or it might have been a little bit earlier, to 11. And yeah. So Wes DM Tales has a YouTube channel. But after that game, it was like, well, I got to leave. I'm trying to calculate the time. Like, I can't stay that late. So by the time I get set up, and I've never done this kind of setup before, and I'm like, if I set up and I'm gonna have to tear it down in 5 minutes, let's do it. Let's do it tomorrow. But what I didn't realize at the time, unfortunately, is a few of the people were just here. Maybe they played on Friday too, but they were only here for the Saturday. Like Ron from Page, I would have tried to do something with him, but he's not here. A couple other people, I think, are just not here today, because you can see it's small. Like, whereas yesterday, the other empty tables were all filled with games. And there actually was an upstairs spot that had some games too. But today it's kind of chill. So it seems like kind of Saturday is the day. But I couldn't do it. Uh, I really, my priority was to come and sort of show support and come here, but also be there for my daughter. So yeah, I took off. But I'm going to try to catch up with Ron. I have his email. I talked to him really briefly about this past Page. And so I think I'm going to try to get him for an interview. He seems really knowledgeable. He knows a lot. Page is growing and growing as a con. I'm kind of interested in how it goes. He gets a lot of guests. He knows some of the big hitters. He knows Professor Dungeon Master. He knows Kelsey Dion. He knows Baron. I forget, Baron DeRop, I think is his name. I'm Bob Worldbuilder was bumping around there last year, so he's got a bunch of people that he knows. My ear trumpet asked, "Do I know what he looks like? Like who? Who? My ear trumpet? Do I know what he looks like? Wes? I know what Wes looks like now because I met him yesterday. Professor Dungeon Master, I've seen. Well, I had that picture from Page. But I didn't know what Wes looked like yesterday when I rolled up, because we'd just been talking on Discord and other things. It's just funny, you just end up talking to people, but I never had really looked at the video portion. I had just been talking to him. We both know Jean-Luc from the Dungeon Key. The Page guy. Yes, I know what Ron from Page looks like because I met him yesterday. I would not have known prior to yesterday, but now I do know, because they had a spot set up against that far wall yesterday. But yes, I know what he looks like now. But I didn't know before yesterday. But the Page Ron, he just seems to have a lot of connections, a lot of people he knows. So it's really interesting to see these kind of cons develop, I guess, and I feel like Ron's. It seems like he's going to keep kind of building this thing out, which is kind of interesting. I mean, he's seems to be very successful at it. So I'm not going to say. I mean, I don't know anything. I don't know anything about it. So I presume he knows. He's worked in conventions and things in the past. I guess he said he was a convention coordinator before, so he certainly knows. Um, but I always wonder, like, if you get to like I feel like these conventions seem to go through a, I don't know, it's not like a popularity thing, but like Daniel was mentioning about Gary Con, that he felt like Gary Con was getting kind of to a size thing, to a or it just changes the character of it a bit when it's you've been there when it's small and it feels very intimate, and then it gets kind of bigger and bigger, and then it becomes just less of that. Not that it's bad, it's just different, and some people, there's certain things that big cons can do that small ones can't because of the size and how they can do things. And of course there's that intimacy and just kind of having this kind of closeness and camaraderie and community that you don't really get with a big con. And I think PAX is like that, like they just keep, they're bigger and bigger and bigger. And I wasn't at PAX Unplugged when it was really tiny, but I was definitely there when it was kind of a bit smaller than it is now, and I can see that kind of same thing. Like there's some of those economies of scale, so to speak, work for the con experience, or at least depending on what you want, and then some of them work against it. And I wonder with someone like Paige, I feel like they're still in this. Again, I've only been to one. I feel like they're in a pretty sweet spot for that kind of community aspect. It's still pretty small, and I wonder if he'll get to a spot point where he's like, I don't really need to get bigger than this. But of course, some of it's not in your control. People just decide to keep coming and coming and selling out more tickets and more tickets. I mean, either you're gonna let it sell out and just say, oh well, to people who can't come, or you'll try to make it work so that everybody can come. And of course, you know the benefits that come along with it. I don't know, but it's interesting. It is interesting. They have a My ear trumpet says North Texas has a limit on numbers. Oh, interesting. North Texas, another one I have not been to that I'd like to go to. I have family in Houston. I used to live in Houston. I don't know anybody in Dallas particularly, but maybe I just kind of got it. Maybe I can work it in with a trip where I'll either go to Houston and then swing to Dallas and then head home, or go to Dallas and then swing to Houston, then head home, something like that. I can maybe get one of my friends or a couple of my friends to make the roadie to Dallas and just use it as kind of a hangout. So that's definitely one on my radar. Just choices that you have, But um, I was thinking, I don't know if I was on the stream with Wes when I mentioned it the other day, yesterday. But I've been now. This is my third. No, I should say my fourth con in a church, which is just really just fascinating to me. Uh, so two Clericons, and they were both like Wes, like this is Ecclesicon, affiliated with a church and were running in the church, or at least in church buildings. In Clericon, we're not playing directly in the church; we're playing in a building a thing that's attached to the church. We're not playing like in the pews. That might be fun, but kind of weird. We're not playing in the pews, but we're essentially on the church. And then Arcane Con, which was not church affiliated, but they rented out a church. Hey, Grumpy Old Slan. So then Clericon, two of those in a church. Arcane Con, affiliated with a church and in a church. Arcane Con, not affiliated with a church, but they rented out a church space, which was really fun, really good. That's three. And then this is a fourth one, affiliated with a church, in a church, or in. Now, they had a couple of rooms, and I know some people played upstairs, but again, we're not like playing in the pews, but again, kind of in the church building, which, given the satanic panic and all that, it's really kind of fun to see it have how it's sort of swung around or flipped or been on its head, where you have, churches and organizations like that encouraging, role playing games for, money raising purposes and charitable purposes. And I think that's really cool. I don't really have anything greater point than that, but it's just kind of funny to me. I was never one that I never was affected by the satanic panic. The most satanic panic stuff I saw was I remember seeing the stuff on TV, but I didn't care. My mom didn't care. I don't remember it really impacting anybody in my friend circle. So it's just one of those things like, oh, those kooky Midwesterners or whatever. I don't even know who I thought at that time was people who were getting satanic panicked, but it wasn't me. So I didn't have any direct experience with it. It's just like everybody else, like, oh, on 2020 or whatever, like, oh my gosh. Slan says that church halls can be quite inexpensive. You compare them to meeting spaces in hotels and other such places. Yeah, and there's cool history to them. There's some neat. They just have neat spaces, So yeah. And then my ear trumpet says, when I stumbled on West's channel, I was surprised when he started talking about Ecclesicon. Yeah, I didn't know about it until. Well, no, I think he mentioned it. It's one of those things, I'm terrible at the social media stuff. So people reach out to me and I'll kind of start and then I forget to follow up. I think sometimes the other people forget to follow up and things kind of end up in limbo. Because I think I'd heard about this maybe last year. So Daniel was saying, like, you told me about it last year. And I was like, I did? Like, I don't even remember, but I must have. And then it must have just fallen out of my brain. But yeah, a lot of times they don't have connection. So like DM Tales and I both worked with Jean-Luc of the Dungeon Ski, and I streamed that, right? Working on his an adventure for a Kickstarter. And Wes was one of the other contributors. So we kind of had that connection a little bit. And we talked online a little bit, but I was kind of aware of his channel, but I hadn't really I wasn't really active there, but I'd follow him on different things and kind of see stuff he's doing, and then just kind of this Ecclesicon. Then I kind of forgot about it. Ecclesicon. I was like, oh yeah, and I'm trying to get better about putting stuff on the calendar. Uh-oh. Hold on a minute. All right. I had a blurb. So hopefully everyone's all right. My connection blurped on me or something happened, but I had to reload the page. So sorry if I blipped out of existence for a minute. So I'm getting better about trying to put stuff on the calendar so I kind of keep track of it. I know there's things like, I forget that website that has con stuff. I just don't find that. I need something more. I think I need to do is I need to make a master list of cons and put them on a calendar, just kind of going as soon as I get the next dates so I can have them. Because there is, like, getting to Philly, I just keep forgetting. From New York City is really not bad. From where I am in New York City to get to Philly is not bad. I mean, there's some tolls involved. If I can get down here in an hour and a half, which might seem like a long on the longish side, but it's really not, because I always look at it like, look, when I go to Midtown on Thursdays to play in the game, that takes me about 35 to 45 minutes on the train. If I go to Queens, so I'm in Brooklyn, on kind of one end of Brooklyn. If I go to Queens, another borough inside New York City, I go to Flushing, Queens, which has amazing Chinese food and really good kind of Asian food. And there's a Chinatown there, but there's also really good Korean barbecue. There's a lot of really good Asian food there. If I go to Flushing with my family, that could be over an hour driving. So the fact that I can get all the way down here in an hour and a half, yes, it's an hour and a half. Yes, I spent 3 hours in the car yesterday, but it feels pretty easy breezy, actually, because it's not all that far further or more annoying than me going across town. I know when I lived in Houston, you could have that same thing. Like, oh, an hour? It's like I could be getting from one end of Houston to the other, not even one end from, I could be getting from here to there. And if I hit the wrong traffic, I end up on I-10, some kind of nightmare. It's like, oh yeah, that's an hour. That's no problem. So there's a really, I've always lamented the fact that New York City's con, there's basically nothing but New York Comic Con, which has gone way over. Talk about getting kind of too big to be fun, at least for me. New York Comic Con went over that threshold years ago. So on the one hand, it's true. It's kind of a con desert. There's just New York Comic Con inside New York City, nothing else. But if you start counting all these other cons, you could even stretch it. If you want to stretch it up to Boston, you stretch it down, to Philly. There's a lot. There's there's Page, there's PAX Unplugged. These three, Ecclesicon, PAX Unplugged, Page, right here in Philly. 3 of them, and they're all in pretty short order. I mean, PAX is December. Page is Martin Luther King Jr. weekend. I think that's that holiday weekend. What I guess was that February or end of January, February, and then you have this one. If this is always kind of end of March, you have basically within 4 months you have three cons that are all. I mean, if you're in the Philly area, there are super easy breezy, but even from New York City, it's pretty easy. You have ShireCon, Arcane Con. There's another one that I forget that's closer to Boston. I don't remember. Is it Phoenix Con? There's like I think there's even one or two over that way. Then there's PAX East, which is granted it's not a uh, only it's not just tabletop, but there is a good tabletop presence there at con. So that's like another 3 or 4. So that's 7, and you've basically only had to go to 3 different states. Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Massachusetts, and boom. So maybe New York's not as bad. I mean, the only thing is it's very few of them. This one's within driving distance. I would feel okay going back and forth. Maybe I might feel differently if I was here late night. Like if I'd been here all day Saturday and stayed late, maybe I'd feel differently about that hour and a half drive back just because I'm tired. But basically, I could drive home. The ones in Connecticut and Massachusetts, not so much. But at least you're not playing your airfare or whatnot. And I from Studio B, ShireCon is basically almost in Studio B's backyard, and ArcaneCon is about an hour away from Studio B. Which, when I did it that last year for the first time, and I kind of stayed pretty late, it was still pretty easy to make that drive back. So I would put that firmly in. So for me, anyway, it feels more con full than I might have thought. What have you guys got going on? Anyone got anything going on? I don't have. I need a second screen. I don't have a second screen, so I could switch windows or do something. I suppose if I wanted to look at something, but I don't know. My voice is I'm already feeling it, just because I think I'm trying to project more to make up for all the noise I hear, whether it comes across to you or not. So I don't know if reading articles, if this is the greatest venue. I'm not sure how much you can hear. Obviously I can't really pay attention to this and that at the same time, but it's really great to see these tables just having a lot of fun. I don't know what if you look right ahead, I don't know what game they're playing, but I'll just it's the one, this one here. I don't know what they're playing, man, but they're having a blast. I feel a little bit dirty. I don't know what they're playing, but man. Yeah, I think that the background probably makes for good. It probably makes for good background. I wonder if I could just set this thing to swivel around back and forth. I don't think I can. Can I? Is there a preset for just like swiveling? So I have this new camera. I don't know a preset. Add a preset position. All right, let's see if I. I wish I could have it just switch. So does this work? Oh, it does work. Oh, ho. All right, hold on a minute. Now let me zoom back out. Oh, no, that's the wrong thing. Oops, sorry. Zoom out and turn. All right, I'll add that preset 3. All right. I am learning new things here, technically. Yeah. I'm glad you can hear me okay. I'm glad you can hear them okay. This is actually a pretty good microphone. I don't remember. I had to actually look up a video on it because I'd forgotten about it. And I can actually, I have it mounted, but it's one I could hold handheld if I needed to. It's one of those. It's not one that's set, but I haven't used it forever. And this kind of setup I have not really done in a long time. It was kind of like before I kind of settled on doing a bunch of streaming and having kind of my home bearing. So at home now, I've got kind of a setup with I have a desktop and I've got my kind of sound stuff, and I don't have to do much. I have my mic on an arm, and I can swing the mic over when I need to swing it back, so it's all pretty much set. If folks who recall some maybe the first times I ever streamed on the channel, or even some of the videos I recorded, I would just do it in my kitchen, and I had essentially pretty much very similar setup to what I have now with this kind of device next to me processing sound. I tried a couple different microphones before I settled on the mic that I have. This was one of the mics that I used. I obviously didn't have this gimbal camera over here, and I think I used a different cameras. I'm not sure if I used the webcam like I have right here, which I'm looking at. But and with a laptop, not this laptop, but my older laptop. So I'm glad everything still works, because that was my fear. One of my fears, having not done this kind of on location setup, was I was going to drag all this equipment here, which I had to borrow my daughter's suitcase, her roller bag, so I could drag all this stuff over here. So I drag stuff here, get set up, find out it didn't work. In fact, I had that same fear before I went live when I'm setting all this stuff up. I'm like, oh gosh, what is it that's going to not work? And then I'll just be like, well, is something not going to connect? Is a wire going to be bad? Is even though I powered on and off some of these devices, are they not going to work? Is the mic going to have gone sour? Even though I'd pretty much been saving it keeping it in a good spot. I wasn't throwing it, using it with a dog as a stick throwing practice or anything. But so now that I know that this setup will work, it'll be good that I'll be able to take this when I'm really somewhere remote. Like Studio B, I've got a thing set up there, so I don't really have to do anything in Studio B other than just plug my laptop in, and then I have a mic that's set up on an arm. I've got kind of a similar setup to home over there, so that's really easy too. But then this will be good if I'm going to be somewhere, maybe at a con. Uh-oh, where is it zooming? Are you zooming in somewhere? Oh, no. Preset 3, back up. I think the camera just kind of quirked. That was an interesting camera quirk. I haven't seen that happen before. The camera lost control. But it's good to know this kind of works. I'm blathering. So what anyone who's in here, what do you got? I don't think I have anything else to chit chat about. But I'm happy to be here. I am here. I'm here. There's only one gaming session, and I'm not in it, so I'm not missing anything. I got to have Wawa. Anyone know Wawa? You guys familiar wherever you were with Wawa? It's a very Pennsylvania brand. My sister actually, a long time ago, before she moved overseas, used to work for Wawa. It's actually kind of a really good. It's really good actually. They're I kind of feel like they're like a 7-Eleven, but they're more grounded in. I don't know, kind of. I feel like Wawa is what 7-Eleven kind of wishes it could be, or what maybe I would wish a 7-Eleven was. So it's like a convenience store. They have gas station Wawas now, but I think at least its original form, there was a convenience store, and you could walk in there, it would look like a 7-Eleven. But they had really good dairy, and they have really good sandwiches. They do things fresh. It's like they have their own sort of version of Subway inside the convenience store. It's so Wawa. It's called Wawa. I just put in chat WAWA, and I think it's a Native American name. It might be the English name for a bird, and that's their logo is a bird. It might even be the state bird of Pennsylvania. I'm not sure, but it's definitely a Pennsylvania brand. So they got the convenience store. and you have the sandwich station, and they do drinks too. So they kind of have. I mean, it's kind of great. Right? So you got the convenience store, then you've got this Subway, but it's better than Subway. Kind of sandwich station in there. Then you've got they have a coffee station, which you get your kind of Starbucksy or Dunkin' Donuts kind of like it's not it's that level of coffee, but you can get that your kind of coffee or whatever kind of beverage you like over there, your sandwich over there, and they have convenient, and then your other kind of convenience store stuff. No Wawa pedals, Slam. Not that kind of Wawa. And you even get now you got gas station version. Get it, but the sandwiches are good. I mean, it's a darn nice sandwich, and they have them all over. Apparently, my sister told me when she worked there, she worked in this really cool. I'm sure they have a bunch of them now, but when she was working there, she worked for the first automated warehouse, which is where they use these machines to. It was pretty neat because I got to go see her in the control room over there, and it was like this warehouse with like super stupid high shelves, and what they could do is these machines would help basically create pallets to load the trucks so that the pallets would be aligned with the truck stops so they could get everything done organized so that the truck would come and they could load the pallets on there and the pallets would be there kind of in this kind of automated process, obviously with human oversight. And then they could, when they were unloading on their trips, so I guess they do anyway, they could put the pallets all in order. But I think the automated was able to do it very fast, whereas maybe with just using people, it was more. But I think at least the automated person helped, I think, just construct the pallets and maybe get them in the queue. It was pretty cool. It was pretty. This is a long time ago, so I don't even know what they're doing in their setups now. My ear trumpet said, I think they heard Harmony Ginger talking about Wawa in Florida. Okay. I mean, yeah, they do have Wawas in Florida because I fly into West Palm Beach sometimes to visit my father, and there's a Wawa that opened a couple of years ago right near the airport, and I know it's still there. So, yeah, there's Wawa in Florida. For whatever reason, it didn't seem to work in New York State. My sister couldn't figure out why, but like Wawa, like big in Pennsylvania, and I think in New Jersey, but it's regional. I guess though it is in Florida too. I imagine since you have snowbirds and people who immigrate in their elder times to Florida, maybe it made sense that there's enough sort of memory of Wawa appeal that you might see it. But yeah, I don't know. It's good though. It is good, and I availed myself of Wawa. I had a half sandwich on my way over here. BLT. It was good. It was like $7, which given the prices of things, I could walk out of there with a decent sized sandwich for. I think it was actually a couple of pennies under $7, but I rounded up for charity. So is a win. I might even get Wawa on the way out of here. I don't know, depending on what time I leave. Depending on when I get here. I'm going to look up really quick. I want to know where Runehammer's store is because I would like to visit, even if he's not there. That one other thing Ron said, I guess, is that Runehammer yesterday was somewhere recording something for Paizo. I guess they're doing some anniversary or some other kind of show, and he was actually not far away because it's not far away where not Paizo. I guess it's like some Paizo related thing, Order of the something something. I don't know, that there was something going on with that, and he was nearby. Oh, my air trumpet says, according to Wikipedia, in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, Washington, D.C., Florida, Alabama, North Carolina, West Virginia, and Georgia. Okay, cool. I recommend it. They are very decent, decent places if you can find them. Uh-oh, did it zoom in again? I'm still getting the hang of this thing. Oh, maybe because it's, you know what? Back out to 3. I think I need to tell it not to focus. Just don't focus on faces. Don't focus on faces. Just hang out. Focus here. Stay here. Don't move. All right. Oh, let's see where we're. Okay. Yeah, my trumpet right talking about Wawas. Yeah, no, that's cool. I'm glad. Wawas, like, I don't know their, I don't. It's one of those things like, it's. I'm singing their praises, and someone's gonna tell me what horrible things they fund with their money. I hope not, because They seem decent. Their stuff's decent. If you run up, come up to a Wawa, I think it's a good place to go. The camera does have a mind of its own. I mean, I guess it's that AI. It's just liking to look at people. What is the Runehammer store? What is it called? All right, hold on. All right, 20. So let me see if I can. 20. 20. It says it's 2401 Franklin Avenue, Philly. Let me see. Where is 2401 Franklin Avenue, Philly? Because the one thing is I wouldn't mind. I could drive into Philly, but I don't want to have to battle for parking or pay some kind of crazy amount of parking. All right, let me see on a map where this is. All right, let's see. All right. Philadelphia. Where are you, Runehammer? Oh, you're in town, aren't you? Where am I? Hold on a minute. Okay, I see Camden. All right. It doesn't seem like that's that far. But I don't know where I am. Cinnamonson, Bordentown, Burlington. I don't know where I am. I can't see. It's not showing me. I don't know. I'm going to have to do it another time. Camera's taken off again. Did it? No, it's back. Oh, no, it's not. Oh, my gosh. Stay back. I got to tell it just to sit. How can I tell it to sit tight? Sit tight. Stop. Okay. How can I get you to sit tight? All right, here's the console. Object tracking, zone tracking. All right, I got that. It is really neat, some of the things you can do, but at the same time, no. Oh, all right, that's just me. I'm just checking something. Woo! All right. Let me fix it now. There we go. Oh, no, I can just go back to preset 3. Whee! This will be really good for some things, but it is weird that it's taken off on a mind of its own. All right, let me see. It should be. There we go. Well, I don't know. I can't tell how. I feel like the stream is behind me. Stream, are you behind me? There we go. All right. I was, for some reason. Okay. All right. We're all set. What is you guys going on? Yeah, welcome our new camera overlord. I could see for this thing having really fun. I thought I was originally just going to have the camera, the sort of mobile cam, PTZ cam, I guess is what it's technically called, on me. But I think now, I mean, I purposely set it up facing the other way because I figured I would just show what's going on, not just my glorious face, since I could just put it on the webcam. But I like it. But I got to learn to control it. Got to learn to control what's going on. So what does everyone have going on? I don't know if I have any other gaming. I don't know if I have any gaming or gaming adjacent thoughts at the moment. I don't think I'm going to get over to Runehammer today. Maybe just there'll be some other time where I'll be around Philly, I think, and then maybe I'll try to get there. I don't feel like going into Philly itself, and I feel like it's pretty much it feels pretty darn in the center of. I don't know if center is the right word, but it's pretty Philly central. Oops. So I don't know. It's in East Kensington. Is that the neighborhood? Has anyone been to Runehammer Shop? Has anyone played the Runehammer games? I know people really like. I'm have this fascination or interest in Crown and Skull, but I don't really hear too much talk about it. I know people like Index Card RPG, which I've looked at the channel, there were some things I liked about it. Some things I was like, yeah, it's okay. I thought it was interesting. I know he's done some other things as well, but he's a character. I haven't been able to really watch any of his. I know he does some streams, videos on YouTube. He's got a lot of energy, which is good, but I think he's kind of all over the place a little bit. I mean, maybe that's how we all sound to others. I probably sound like I'm all over the place too. But I think it's really cool how he's been able to do what he's doing and then translate into having a shop and stuff seems really cool. He seems like he's found a good, I don't know, business model that works for him. And I mean, I'd love to be where he is in terms of that. But I feel like I'm terrible at some of the things I need to be not terrible at if I was ever going to accomplish that. Um, I'm surprised that some of the other, because like I said, Dungeon Master, um, Professor Dungeon Master lives around here somewhere. Um, I don't know if it's just not his. He's at a level now, or maybe it'd be below him to make it below or not to his level anymore to come to something like this. But I mean, I don't want to put words or things. He might be busy, might not have been around, whatever. But there's a bunch of people around this area. My ear trumpet has heard Crown and Skull mentioned. It doesn't get mentioned a lot. It's a different kind of game. It's not. I imagine if you're kind of interfacing mostly with OSR folks, I can't imagine Crown and Skull would come up very much unless it would be to rail against it because it's not an OSR type game. It's not trying to be. It's definitely more of a narrative game, a story game. I don't really like the term story game. It's definitely kind of a narrative. I guess it's a kind of more of a narrative experience and has a really interesting way of doing things. And I don't necessarily love everything about it, but I think there are some fascinating, interesting things going on with it. And unfortunately, on YouTube, when I've looked, it's really hard to get folks to really kind of drill into it. Maybe I just have to be that, bite the bullet, and maybe get a digital copy of something to go through it and just be that for myself. But even part of what my thing is that I'm not even sure I'm getting it fully in what I've read. Like I want to see some more, or I'd love to see some. I don't know if live play or people talking about there, but really people really talking about it. Sometimes you get these people who talk about it, but then because they're trying to, I don't know, be nice or whatever. I don't want to make it seem like there's some huge issue in Crown and Skull and nobody's talking about it. But I think you find sometimes that people want to. I mean, you get people who want to talk just about negative stuff, right? I just want something I feel like is well balanced. Like if you're saying, like, don't just tell me like, oh, we had a couple of issues here and there, but this and that. Hey, Dave. Um, don't tell me, like, oh, we had some problems getting this to work, but then and then go off on all the stuff you loved. Like, I'm fine. I want to hear the stuff that you love, but I also want to hear the stuff like, well, what were the problems that you had? Like, how did you solve? Like, what were they? How did you solve them? What was how did it come up? That kind of. And I think with something like Crown and Skull that is taking such a different tack in some ways, I think it's more important, or it is important to talk through the ups and downs and how you dealt with it, or whatever, than just to kind of, I don't know. I feel like sometimes just kind of like they just want to brush over. Well, I had an issue here, but that was okay, and then we kind of move it on. It's like no, move on. Let's hear about that. And it's not because I want to oh, I want to delight in the pitfalls of Crown and Skulls. Like, no, because I want to hear how you got over it. I want to hear how it worked for you, and really kind of drill down into that a bit. And I haven't found anything that really does that. Yeah, I mean, and I would do the same thing. Like, I feel like if you were, I feel like my eardrum, I could say something by myself, right? I do mostly OSR and I'll read other stuff, but it's not even so much just like I said, it's not even so much the reading because I'll read it probably at some point, but until I get a chance to play it, that kind of play experience part. I think when you're something is very different, I think it can be hard to give it a fair. You really have to try to give it a fair shake, right? Especially if you're kind of skeptical or whatnot. And for me, I want to. I don't want. I don't need to hear. I want to hear someone who maybe was more in like, oh, I love narrative games. This is my jam, and then played it and talked about that way. But I just want to hear the ups and downs kind of thing. I just want to hear like, what were the pain points and how did you solve them? What were the great points and how did that work? So not necessarily another person like me who's read it, but someone who's played it and maybe run it to talk about their running it. So actually either played it or run it and kind of coming from that standpoint, not so much like the out. I feel like me and I'm sure somebody else like that kind of outsider. Like we're looking at it, but we're looking at it side eye. It's like, no, I want someone who's kind of in it. You know, Dave says the key there is to not just complain about something, but also discuss ways to improve it. Yeah, or it doesn't even have to be that you improve it. Sometimes things that aren't for you. Like, okay, like that's a fine way to play, but that's not how I want to do it. Like Trophy Gold is another game that I watched a session of, and it seemed like a lot of fun. They had a lot of fun. The people who were playing it had a lot of fun in it. I've read a bit of the rules. I'm going to do more with that at some point. And that also has some different ways of doing things. I didn't necessarily agree with all of them, but I can see why they're doing what they're doing. Like, I don't have to like it. It doesn't have to be for me, but I can see the kind of why behind it. And it's interesting kind of what problems some of that solves, and maybe if there's problems that it creates or something like, okay, well, it does this for the experience, but there is a cost there because there's usually some kind of exchange, right? It's like, well, you get this, but you're giving away a little bit of that, right? In Trophy Gold, there's this concept where you enter I forget what they call it, a space, basically a kind of a room in a dungeon, but it's not really a room, an area. They pretty much tell you, and I think that's the way the game is written, is to tell you like what the goal in the area is. You come to this house in the woods, your goal is to, I don't know, find defeat the big bad wolf, right? Okay, what defeat means is entirely up to you, but right away, well, there's a couple of things that does for you. Number one, if you want to put in the positive column, that you're coming to this place, there's a thing for you to do, and you know what that thing is. There's no fumbling around as a player trying to figure like, okay, well, the GM's put me in this house or at this house. Like, what do I do? Like, no, you know what you need to do. And it doesn't have to be obvious, right? It doesn't say the wolf's house, but you just know that there's a wolf in there and you have to deal with the wolf, right? So now you got to figure it out. And there's other stuff you're trying to do potentially as well, but you have that goal. So now it's very clear. Everybody can, as players, you can go, okay, we got to figure out this thing with the wolf, right? Now, okay, so what does it cost? Well, you don't have that discovery. That like, okay, there's a strange house. What's special about it? Like, you don't have a mystery of, there's no question that there's a wolf there. And this is not to say there are not additional mysteries or that the wolf itself can pose more mysteries, but there is a point where you don't get to discover in the game that there is a wolf at the house. There's a wolf at the house. It's kind of given to you, right? So it kind of changes a little bit of the game. So you get something, which is kind of a sense of purpose, something that's very clear, a goal that's clear, but you lose a little bit of kind of the mystery and at least some of the discovery. From the GM, I don't know if there is a downside other than if you really want your players to discover things, because the benefit from the GM is that you don't have places that your party just doesn't go to. It's like if you go to the place, you can't leave unless you solve it. Well, there's actually a way you can end around it. There's a kind of a fun little mechanic. Again, it's not something I love, but it's kind of fun and interesting, where you essentially can spend a resource of a type, like a meta resource, I think, to basically just skip an encounter. Like, we're not interested in that. Like, you get to the house, you're like, oh, the house is discover like the wolf, and I think you can pretty much throw something down. It's like, we're just gonna say we did that. Maybe we'll just come up with something, but we're not really gonna interface with the wolf. We're not interested, which is kind of, on the one hand, you look and it's like, boy, isn't that lame? But in some other ways, it's kind of good because sometimes you might end up in an otherwise, say, a wonderful adventure, and you just get to something where you just don't want to do it. Like, I don't want to do this, or and you can kind of pay your way through. But it's a very kind of meta, obviously meta kind of thing. But from the GM, it solves the problem of, like you might in an OSR type kind of sandboxy game, or even a narrative game, where your party gets somewhere, they don't know what they're looking for, and they don't find it, and they leave, or they just bypass it. You've set up, oh, there's going to be all kinds of stuff in this village, and you're going to go to the village, and then they're going to discover the miller who's in league with the demons, and and the party's like, yeah, nope, we're out. Goodbye. Oh, you know what? We can still. Oh, what? It's only in the morning. Oh, we got plenty of time. We'll head down to this other spot. And you're like, well, what the? Excuse me. In Trophy Gold, you don't get that because it's like you get to the village and you're like, you village, discover the secret of the miller, and it's like, ooh, you're right. Again, some discovery is lost, but they're gonna go through it. They're not gonna miss out on it, and you're not gonna miss out on it because it's put in front of you. And it's kind of it's there, unless you guys use this meta currency, which you can't do that with every encounter. And I'm sure there's some other. I really haven't read I've talked to some folks about the rules, and I have the rules in PDF, but I haven't gotten kind of there yet. So I don't know exactly if there's other controls on it, but whatever, you can kind of use you can use that one card from the community chest to go past go and collect your $200. So, right, neat stuff. Now, it's not something that I think from an OSR perspective, something like, oh yeah, I'm going to cram this into BX, but it's a really interesting way to play. And I'm interested in these different ways to play these kind of games. I don't know about you guys, but I am. And I found that one of the things I was thinking about, and I don't know how this will sound, is I often feel like, and I don't know how this is with people who are new to the hobby, but for me, who've been playing this stuff since I was a kid, part of what I feel like I'm trying to do is recapture that fun, that kind of kid, that sort of innocent fun of the game. And there are different types of fun now, and there's some things I find fun now that I didn't when I was a kid, and of course the stuff I found fun as a kid that now as an adult I don't. But I think just that kind of childlike immersion, but a different kind of immersion, not immersion like, oh, me and my character are one and whatever, but just that sort of just kind of being in it. And I always wonder now, if you pick up the hobby as an adult, like what is that? What is it? What is the game to you as an adult? And I wonder if sometimes because there are certainly times where I can't put my head in the shoes of some of the folks and some of their beliefs or the way they think about games. Like, the people get wrapped up in, like, I've created 200 characters for my next 200 games, and I'm super attached to particular characters and like all this stuff. I wonder if it's because of when they started playing. Like, I started playing as a kid, where I don't know, you went through, I don't know, hundreds of characters. I mean, yeah, I would make characters all the time. I just didn't play. I just did them. And the characters would die, and all kinds of crazy stuff would happen. It was very disposable and very much kind of not. But I wasn't an adult. I wasn't trying to. I don't know, putting myself in the game the way an adult probably puts themselves into something that makes the kind of connections that they find. And I wonder if someone who's an adult who starts a gaming now, in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, are they going to be looking back and wanting to try to recapture this experience, their kind of adult experience now? I don't know. And I guess sort of a long way of saying that one of the things I find in some of these, like these story games and other things, is they do things that I recall doing, having done in the past. And I probably want to do more about this, but it wasn't very popular when I did. But I guess, what do I care about popularity? Was this kind of concept of like how you gamed, and especially pre-internet age, and certainly pre now, where you have, you're in a squeeze, you're being squeezed because your party goes somewhere you didn't mean them to go. You can, on your phone, go to Dyson's Delves, or just do Google image search some other and pull up a random map and go, right? But pre-internet, unless you carried around a pack of maps, you didn't have it, right? You didn't have access to PDFs on your phone if you were trying to play and like, well, I got my dice or we had dice from a game because we got Parcheesi or not. I don't know if Parcheesi has dice. Like we have Yahtzee or something right here, but we don't have our character sheets. We certainly don't have the DMG and a whole bunch of books. Like, how do we do it? Like now we would just be like, okay, well, I got the PDFs on my phone or on my iPad or whatever. We'll just go. But back in the day, it was like, well, if you wanted a game, you had to figure out another way to do it. Like, well, what are we going to do? And to me, when I look at I see a lot of these tools that these narrative type games use. They harken back to those tools that I used and other people used to run games pretty much wherever we could, and we didn't have access to everything. And I know sometimes I find it frustrating when I bump against in OSR spaces and other ones where people just push off on these ideas like it's poppycock or haha, like never. But I think that even in those spaces, we do tend to use some of those tools. We just don't do it in the same systematic way. Like, what does somebody do when the party goes into a house and you hadn't mapped out the house? Well, you just kind of figure it out, right? You just like, it's got 4 walls, and okay, maybe I have an idea of what a farmer's hut looks like. So I'm going to kind of rough out the hut. And then if somebody looks around and says, well, is there a cooking fire or a cooking area? And you go like, yeah, I mean, sure. Did we know there was one there? No, but it seems like a logical thing to do. So sure, there's a cooking area there. Or, okay, well, is there a cauldron on the cooking fire? Is there a ladle? And like, I don't know, roll a die. Daniel in his game likes to do like, well, do you want there to be a ladle in the cauldron? And then you say yes. He goes, okay, now tell me high or low and roll a d6. That is not really dissimilar from using some kind of player, right? Because we're doing this kind of co-creation together, a player and me, on this space. That's not really different than what narrative games tend to do. We just don't do it systematically. We haven't given it a procedural name.
Hi.
Hey,
how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Well, there's me in this little corner, but there's a delay.
Oh, there's a delay. Okay.
So if you see that that's
like
that one.
We're on bio break, and I'm coming back.
Bio break.
Yeah.
There you are.
There I am. Hi. How are you?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No worries. Thanks.
Thanks for coming down.
Oh no, glad you invited me.
It was awesome. Our auction last night raised $1,500.
Wow! Congrats.
Awesome.
Sorry I missed it.
That's all right.
Next year I'll be here for it.
I got my Philly area gaming.
Oh, there! I almost wore mine. I was wearing mine this morning and I changed because it was cold.
It was. I'll talk to you later.
All right. All right. What did Dave say before I was so rudely interrupted? Dave says, as long as you know a short sword does D6 and a long sword does D8, there isn't much else to it. Well, Dave, I just usually play with D6s across the board, so they're all doing D6s for me. Though I do like the, I want to do something with the kind of wolves on the coast. I do like that idea of giving weapons some different things that they do to differentiate them without changing the dice. Live gaming. Well, I wish I was actually gaming. Well, actually, no, I'm having fun doing this, but other folks are gaming while you are indeed working. I'm working too. We're all working. But yeah, game on, everybody. Game on, everyone. What was I saying? Oh yeah, just these. I think what happens in the narrative games, I think there's a false dichotomy. So oftentimes between the kind of old school games and the narrative games. And I think it's just to do with the fact that narrative games make systematic procedures out of things that I think, at least in the past, and maybe that differentiates kind of old school from OSR, whatever, in the past, like I feel like what at least people I knew and I was in games we did so that we could game pretty much anywhere, anytime, anything. I mean, part of that vaunted improv is just like the players ask something you don't know, so maybe you decide, yeah, there's some kind of chance, and you roll it. And that's not really substantially different than in a narrative game where it says specifically or explicitly that a player can do that. We just don't say explicitly, but we still might lean on that information. I mean, it comes up all the time. There's lots of advice videos say, listen to your players and incorporate what they're doing. Well, if a narrative game just says you can just do it, or like it's part of like, it's like people get all irate, like I can't believe, but it's like we do that anyway. I don't know how many times I've heard my players say something. I'm like, oh yeah, that's definitely what's happening. That's a badass thing to do. It's like it's just that they don't know they have that power, I guess, and I'm just doing it maybe on the sly as opposed to them. And look, to be fair, when I'm playing a game, I don't generally want to get into the co-creation business. When I sit down to play a game, I really want to be in somebody else's world. So for me as a player, probably because I also GM and I also do world building and stuff, I don't need to get my world building fixed through playing. I'll get my world building fixed through world building. I'll make a hex map. I'll do the goofy stuff I do on this channel or on the behind the screen channel. I'll just do that. That does that fix for me. So me as a player, I don't really want to sit down and create somebody else's world. I want to be like, no, this is your world. You do it. I want to be a tourist here. I don't want to be a co-creator. However, not everybody has that lovely separation where they get to kind of interact with all the facets of the hobby. Dave says, if I ever make a game that uses the standard set of dice, fighters will use one die size higher for weapon damage because they're fighters. I'm fine with that. I like other things for fighters, to be honest. The game I'm working on now uses kind of a dice pool, and so fighters will get more in their dice pool. It's kind of going off that troop combat and chainmail. Why did that? But that works too. I mean, I do think that nobody should be better fighters than fighters. So whatever combat is, and the way I look at it, if I'm doing a custom kind of class for somebody, I'll look at the fighter and say, unless you are the fighter, you're going to have to be somewhat reduced in the fighter. Maybe you'll get a little bit of a oomph somewhere here, but you're probably losing something. Like usually the first thing with like the fighter-ish types lose is they lose heavy armor. It's like, okay, well, maybe you have a little bit like this, but guess what? No plate mail for you. You lose that, sir. Oh, you're on the way to work, listening on the phone. Oh, great! I'm glad that works. I mean, I think Dave mentions about DMs listening to their players. I think all GMs do, but what I find most frustrating is when I'll see I've seen this on Reddit in particular. I'm sure it happens in other forums where somebody had brought up a game to talk about, say, hey, this has some interesting things in it, and wanted to discuss in an OSR kind of concept, like looking at it, hey, is there anything that this game has that might be applicable or interesting or whatever that we could use in kind of our OSR style game? And someone was just trying to shut down the whole conversation because it didn't match their philosophy of what OSR was. Now, granted, nobody can agree on the philosophy of OSR anyway, but this person's like, no, you should take this elsewhere because it does not match the OSR. And I hate this because guess what? When I'm sitting down playing a game, I don't care about philosophy. I'm caring about the practical bits about running a game. You don't hear anybody here at these tables start to wax philosophical about the game they're playing. They just want to play. And stuff that helps you practically play a fun game, have a good time with your friends, that's all that matters. There's no purity test. No one's going to, Gygax isn't going to welcome you at some kind of pearly gates of role-playing saying you played it. I mean, infamously, they never played by all this stuff anyway. I mean, if you hear any stories, forget reading the books, just stories of Gygax and their people playing the game that they never actually played by the rules as they were written in the books they were selling. So whatever about that, or Gygax, depending on which quotes you want to believe about him, like the sound of the dice rolling was just for the parties to hear and not really pertain to his decisions, like whatever. I don't know what's true and what's apocryphal, whatever. The point is that there's no one is going to give you some kind of like gold star for playing by some kind of philosophy. So if you're in an internet discussion where someone's talking about how they can improve their game and have more fun by looking at this technique or that technique or a procedure or whatever, and someone says like, no, because of the philosophy, I want to send them in a rocket straight to the sun. That's my opinion on that. Dave says, I was under the impression that the OSR is what you make it. This is what makes it OSR. I mean, that's as good a definition as any. at this point. I mean, you'll find so many people with so many different things. And then for somebody to come out and try to be the gatekeeper, like, no, because I do not believe this is OSR. Me, just some guy, I'm going to say that you should not have this discussion. It's like, just move on, pal. Like, what are you doing? You know, I mean, that kind of like, I got to come in and crap on someone's discussion, even though I could just pass it by. It's super annoying anyway. But I know that some trollish folks just can't help themselves. They got to dip into a convo and say no, and then just leave or whatever. Slan says OSR is what I mean when I say OSR. Yes, yes, exactly. I don't even know if there's any. So Wes, who interrupted a minute ago, he's running a Numenera game over at that far table. Hold on, I can. So let me swing the camera from what I understand. So Wes, who's at that far table. Let me check out the zoom. I know we can. Where can I zoom in here? Here we go. How far can I get? This thing's got optical zoom. It's not a digital zoom. I'm not. There we go. Wes over there. He's running Numenera. I'm not sure what's happening with these other two tables. But I don't think anyone's actually running, which is totally fine by me. I'm down with it. I'd like to play Numenera. It's a shame I didn't have more time. Maybe I'll have to get invited to one of Wes's games, like a normal game, but it's probably during the week and hard for me to get down here during the week, even though it's not that far away, but still. Because Numenera, I think I backed some Numenera stuff way back when it first came out, but I just never got into it. I'm not even sure I even read that much about it. I may have. I know I bought some book that I covered on the channel. It was a source book for Numenera that had some cool stuff in it. Some cool tables and things, but I think Numenera seems like a cool game to try. Slan says that it looks like they're having fun, which I think is all that really matters. Right, exactly. Yes, everyone is having a good time, and that is all that is absolutely all that matters. I'm trying to think. Oh, we got some here. Hey, Matt. Matt says that their game's such a hodgepodge of rules. They can remember what's rules is written, what they made up, or what they've taken from other games. Yeah, indeed. Oh, is the camera moving again? No. Stay with me. Stay with me, camera. Oh, Dave said we did some artwork for some Numenera stuff. Oh, never got published? Oh, well, you got paid. Well, that's good. Hey, Slan. Well, thanks for hanging out. Have a great rest of your Sunday. K5K says they're soaking up the feels from watching tables. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's a cool to see. I like to see it. It's Saturday would have been good, but Saturday might have been too noisy. I mean, the downside of it being when it was kind of all the tables running yesterday, just so much noise. And just in terms of, for me, it's one of the things that I don't know how folks handle it, but I find myself it's easy to get distracted by background noise, even if it's noise that you guys can't hear because I might have limiters and things, and now these AI tools for cutting out background crap, but it's still in my ears. I know even when I'm at home and a truck is driving or there's a plane that's flying, I don't know, low or it's just loud, like I find it hard to keep talking through it, even though I know that it's probably only me that can hear it, even though, only me that can hear it, it still is like a distraction. So even here, like I said, I have a loud voice naturally, but I can't project it much more than it is naturally loud without it starting to strain. Like I can feel it like tonight. I mean, granted, I'm going to be by myself. I'm going to be at Studio B, so I'm going to be all by myself. So I don't have to talk to anyone but myself. So I can keep it to a whisper. But no, I'm so glad these little cons are working. And I kind of hope that this is the next evolution of the con, or I'm guessing this is what a lot of cons kind of started off as, right? It's kind of community sort of things that then kind of grow into where they want to have something bigger. I don't know. I don't know the history of cons. It'd be a fun thing to look at, but these kind of, I don't know, regional maybe this not, I don't even know what I would say. This is a regional con. I don't know what you call it, like a local, maybe a notch above local, but not quite regional. They're really fun. I mean, one, if there are creators here, I mean, look, if you want to meet me, I'm here, whatever. But either you get these kind of local folks if you're interested in their games. Like ShireCon has a bunch of people in it that have done stuff you may really like, and they're all there hanging out in a very small environment where you're going to get to game with them and talk to them if you want to, and you can really interact with folks that you're not going to be able to do at something huge, right? Um, and you might get people who don't travel to big cons because these are kind of in their backyards, in their areas. Oh, I think this table, the one that's right behind me, the one with the red bag is in front, the messenger bag. They're playing something sci-fi. Oh, they were playing. I missed it yesterday because I was down here in the basement in the game, but they were playing right when I left in the other room. Did I take a picture of it? I think I might have. I'll have to share it later. They were playing. They had a whole downtown set up, and they were playing TSR Marvel. Oh man, I would have loved. I would have loved to have gotten in on that TSR Marvel game they were playing upstairs in the other room yesterday. It looked awesome. And there were some Sentinels. It looked like they had some huge Sentinel minis, and there were buildings. Oh man, it looked. I loved Marvel, the TSR Marvel back in the day, but I never got to play it with minis and a whole setup. We were just theater of the mind because that's what we had. But I would have loved to do that. What else is going on? What time is it? Oh my gosh, it's already 4 o'clock. Wow, I'm on. Um, just in case, I set this to go so it's going to drop. Once I turn this off, it's not going to go straight into the live. I don't know if there'll be anything worth cutting out of this. There's a setting I discovered in the YouTubes where you can basically set your stream to go unlisted after you stop broadcasting, and I set this one to it. I might just push it up back as is. I might cut it up. I don't know if I said anything particularly pithy. I wasn't sure if I'd have anybody to talk to, but then after yesterday, when I realized that everybody except for Wes, who I think I would have wanted to talk to, wasn't coming back today, it kind of, it sort of changed where I was going to be coming from. But so if you see it disappear, that's why. And then I'll decide what I want to do with it. I don't know. I feel like this stuff is fun when you're in here, but I can't imagine. I mean, someone in here let me know, like, oh yeah, tomorrow I'd like to come back and listen to this on the replay. I kind of go, really? I really want to. I don't know. You tell me. Maybe I'm spitting out so much wisdom that there's a usefulness to it, but I don't know. I feel like I'm giving myself too much credit. What else? Anyone watching White Lotus or anyone watch Severance? I have this other channel I set up for kind of like personal thoughts where I thought I'd talk about TV and stuff, and I never have. So maybe I'll save my White Lotus and Severance thoughts for the other channel. I don't know if you saw. Well, here I'll talk about this. I did post a short about it on the Behind the Screens channel, but I've been watching. What is it? It's hold on. It's a Bigfoot show. I'd only just discovered that this Bigfoot show existed. It's not. I remember seeing Finding Bigfoot on TV, which I enjoyed a little bit. I actually got to meet the Finding Bigfoot people because they were maybe at the last New York Comic Con I went to. They had a little panel with the Finding Bigfoot cast and Matt Moneymaker, which is one of those guys there, and what's his name? The big guy. I keep want to say Bilbo. I'm forgetting his name. Something like that. Not Waldo. I don't know. Anyway, I forget his name. He was there. It was kind of fun. But I mean, look, of course, the chances of finding anything, whatever. And the show ran its course, and I was always kind of frustrated. I love those shows. I don't know why. I don't really watch reality shows, but I will watch those shows. Like I will watch Skinwalker Ranch, and I'll watch The Secret of Oak Island, and I'll watch this that Finding Bigfoot. But Finding Bigfoot went off the air, I guess, a while ago now. It's not anything new. But there's another one. I don't know if it's still on, but it was on, and it started in 2019. Somehow I missed it, and it's what's kind of funny about it is that on the one hand, it's like they just took Finding Bigfoot and found some new people to fill in the shoes. Because they basically, so Finding Bigfoot had the guy who was kind of they had basically had four people, and this one's not exactly the same, but they had one scientist, and the scientist was a lady. And then now they have this new show, and guess what? There's one, two, I guess there's four of them, and there's one of them is a scientist, and the scientist is a lady. And I know at first, and it showed up on Max. It's on Max. Again, I don't know if it's on regular TV. It's on Max. And I first saw, I'm like, well, did they just see Finding Bigfoot went off the air? And we're like, oh, we can just bring this show. We'll just run it back, but we'll just call it a slightly different name. This one's not Finding Bigfoot. I don't know what it is, but something else. And like, oh, we'll just get ourselves a new scientist lady. Like, oh, we'll just get another scientist who's also a lady, and we'll just throw her in the spot. But the one thing that I liked about this first season, if I have to say there's something I liked about these things, is they stayed in one area. One of the things that's annoyed the heck out of me is if you're really going to make a run at finding something like Bigfoot, to me, it makes no sense to do what Finding Bigfoot would do, which is we're going to go and we're going to spend one episode in every different, we're going to do one episode and we're going to be here, and then we're going to be in a whole other place, and we're going to go down to Rhode Island, then we're going to come up to, like, every episode would be in a whole different location. And like, if you really believe there are potentially magical bipedal giant ape men living in a place, the way not to do it is to spread yourself all over the whole continent of the United States trying to pick on little things. Like, you think that these things are really there, and you think they're really in Pacific Northwest, which is usually where people think if they're somewhere, that's where they are. If that's where you think they are, then you go and you stay there. Why are you leaving? Why are you all of a sudden traveling and you're spending 2 days up there, and then you're going to go drive across country and spend 2 days somewhere else? It doesn't make any sense. It makes sense from a show perspective, right? But not from we're actually trying to do the thing. So I give this other show credit. So Finding Bigfoot went off the air. Or is it still on the air? No. It's got a 4.1. Oh, no, Finding Bigfoot. No, it's not still on the air, is it? I don't believe it. I don't believe it at all. Oh, wow, they've got Finding Bigfoot, the series continues. I don't know. Anyway, I thought maybe I was going to see if it ended right before this other one showed up. So I give this other series something Bigfoot. I don't know if it's Searching Bigfoot, Tracking Bigfoot. I don't know. I give them credit in quotes because they actually stayed in one spot for the whole season. They thought, they were like, oh, Bigfoot is in. We have this, and they said, again, I don't know how good, but they were like, we used all this data and we ran some algorithms and we found that this is a hot spot, and they said it was not only was it this geographical area is a hot spot, but it was a hot spot at this time that they were filming it. So it was like they were saying there's a window, and during this window, we think we can find Bigfoot here. And so theoretically, they're using data, they're using all stuff to say, okay, during this time that we're filming, whenever that is, there's a very good chance that Bigfoot's going to be seen here because of all this data with all this sightings, blah, blah, blah. And then they stayed there. So I give them credit for like, okay, we're sticking in the spot. And what I said in that short that I posted on the channel was that essentially there was kind of some cool kind of hex crawly elements because they found this area they're in, and then they're setting up, they're finding a place to camp. They're finding where they feel like in this area there's So imagine in a fantasy thing, if we were going to take this in a game kind of sense, imagine that you're looking for a Yeti or a dragon, let's say, or something, right? And you know that the dragon's been spotted, whatever, but it's not enough. You're not seeing it flying overhead. Maybe it's like a Smaug situation where the dragon's gone laying low, but you think they're somewhere, right? So you're trying to figure it out. So you go and you talk to different people and you talk to different towns and you find some area like, okay, we think it's around here. And then you actually get on the ground. And so you figure out, well, where are we going to camp? So you find a spot to camp that's got good access to these different things. So they kind of have, and now of course they have all the technology stuff. So they have like topographical maps. So I think they did LiDAR or something. They did all the stuff to get really good information on the ground. So obviously in a fantasy perspective, you have to figure something else that's figure it differently, but you do the similar sort of things. You try to find, okay, how can we get an observation spot to figure out where it is? Okay, they know some things about Bigfoot, which would be similar to if you were doing research on a monster. They say that Bigfoot likes, and again, don't know if Bigfoot exists, probably not. So who knows? Whatever these things, but just in terms of like monster information, they say Bigfoot. They just say right likes to, hey, no nothing. Bigfoot is a ridge walker. They like to walk on the ridges. And that's how because humans tend to avoid being on those heights, walking around. This is what they say. So Bigfoot likes to use the ridges to get around easily and avoid people. Great. So they found an area which would have been, depending on your hex size using, of course, like a couple of hexes worth of area that had a couple of these ridges running through it with a valley in between. And in that valley was a water source and a clear area and some game trails. So you could see them doing all these things that to me when I was watching it was like, this is kind of hex crawly kind of stuff. Like these are the kind of things that if you're really kind of getting into this sort of expedition side of what a hex crawl could be, like this is it. Like some monster's been terrorizing the land. You've been to a few different places. You know it's got to be in this area somewhere, but you don't know where. You don't have a direct trail of the creature. So you start to see, well, let's find some observation points. Okay, here and now you're looking down. Maybe you find a high point. You look down. Okay, we see this valley. We see, okay, it's like those are ridges which might have caves, and caves did come into play. So you think maybe it's hiding in one of those caves. There's also a water source where prey animals are going to come. If it's not raiding villages, maybe it's getting a thing there. So we're going to find out. Okay, we can do it right. This is all the kind of they're doing those same kind of things, and they're also discovering things like there was, and again, it's a show, so you don't know how much is produced and how much is real, but they found like an abandoned homestead, and it turned out, and this is kind of again from a D&D, the kind of fantasy where often it's that kind of post-apocalypse, right, where there used to be stuff here, but now it's all ruins and monsters have moved in, it's become overgrown. They had a similar thing where they ran across an abandoned homestead. They ran across an abandoned, or at least it was a cemetery, or a cemetery, just in the middle of the woods. There's just a cemetery that was very creepy, and it all had like the graves were all, at least so it's on the show, were all children's graves, which really weirded out the scientist lady. And she had just had dreams the night before of children outside her tent, and then they come across this cemetery with these headstones, and like it's in the middle of nowhere. Like it feels like if you don't know the history of the place, it's like that they just it really is like something out of a game where you would say like, okay, you come across the woods and suddenly you're in this like barrow mounds or something. It's a similar kind of thing, like, and you don't know the history yet, so you're like, whoa, why are there barrow mounds in the middle of the woods? You don't know. Well, it turned out there used to be a mining community there, and they were old mines, and they were mining cinnabar, and then the mines all shut down, and they left, and nature just reclaimed it. So you get that same kind of post-apocalyptic in a sense, where there was things here of an older culture in a way, and they're gone, and now it's just forest, but it's still kind of there, that they're discovering. They found the old mines, and of course they're not adventurers. So they're like, cinnabar is a very dangerous chemical, a mineral. It's extremely poisonous. They're not going to delve in there, but if you kind of flip it over to its hex crawl thing, it's like, well, yeah, they found this dungeon, and gosh, it isn't a cool environmental type hazard if there was stuff with this cinnabar in the dungeon and maybe the creatures living in the, it's like, okay, cool. Like you could really see how you could look at and this is all, if you wanted to watch just the last episode or 2 episodes of the first season, you'll get most of this, because they're slow and they're doing all their walks at night and stuff. I don't know why everything has to be at night when you can't see. other than from the fact that it makes for this kind of jump scare kind of things they're able to do. But whatever. If you just watch the last couple episodes, you get the sense of this kind of really fun, how you could look at that and say, like, turn that into sort of gameable stuff. And now they're in a really, so I started watching the second season, and now they've used their algorithms and all their nonsense to determine that they're basically in Appalachia now, and they're in all the hollers, and is it Kentucky or I forget where they are, but it's like all these old mines that are closed down. It feels like they're just like entered Justified country if you watch Justified. And the landscape's really interesting though, and all these funky. I guess they did all these. I forget the name of the mining technique it is, and I'm sure it wouldn't cross over into a fantasy type thing unless you were going more steampunk. But they do these horizontal drilling in, and they would just drill all these holes horizontally in. Makes things very unstable in some of these areas, but really creepy things. And of course, there are all these mining towns and buildings that are just abandoned. There's decent roads in there, but the roads basically go to nowhere, or they go to just like a ghost town. It's really kind of eerie, and it would also make for really good if you could figure out how you want to make it kind of a fantasy thing, make it fantastical, and presumably remove the technology stuff away if you wanted to, or if you wanted to go with something more, depending on how your worlds work with technology and whatnot. It'll be some interest. I think there'll be some interesting material in there. That is my. I wish I could remember the name of the show because it's not Finding Bigfoot. It's something Bigfoot. Hold on, let me just put Bigfoot in IMDb. Is it Expedition Bigfoot? Oh, that's it. Yeah, it's Expedition Bigfoot. Yeah, Expedition Bigfoot. Wow, people like Expedition Bigfoot better than they like Finding Bigfoot. Oh, Bobo, that was the guy on Finding Bigfoot. He was like a big guy, kind of scraggly. He liked to do the calls. They don't have a Bobo. There's nobody who's quite Bobo level. But yeah, that's what they need. Searching Sasquatch, yearning for Yeti. What are some other names? Uh-oh, what happened? Is the camera's tracking somebody randomly again? Stay there. I don't know how to tell it not. I gotta look at the settings, how I can tell it. Just don't worry about focus. Don't worry about focusing on individual people. Just give me the... All right. Anybody got anything else? I feel like I'm spinning my wheels. I got some old gum that's been sitting in my mouth since I was on the turnpike. Nothing worse than drinking water or some liquid when you have gum in your mouth. It's just disgusting. I'm trying to think. What else we got? Or should I close her up at the 2-hour mark? Dave, you got anything going on? Anybody have in here? Anybody want to pitch? I'm all ears. I am here for you. Open. The floor is open. Stop tracking someone and sit on that preset, please. Stop tracking. Stop tracking. Yeah, I'll have to do some more of their kind of manual. Read the manual to see how I can just keep it from going where I don't want it to go. Oh, Days of working on their new game. They really need a new name or good name. Well, yeah, good names are tough. I think you can make a name good. by just being good, but it's hard to. It's like a, you know it when you got it. You have shown me some of it. Yep, you have. I recall. Yep, it's in the. I mean, you got some good. The text. I think you just showed me a little bit of the text look good, but your illustrations look amazing. So, um, really looking forward to more of that. It was really cool just to kind of wrap things up. I'm going to say here I'm at Ecclesicon. It was a lot of fun. Sunday's quiet, but it got a couple of games going on, 3 games going on, a lot of fun. I think they're kind of wrapping a bit. I played Into the Odd with Wes DM Tales, who's running this con. That was a lot of fun. Um, I had not played Into the Odd before, so that was a great spot. I talked about it at the kind of the beginning of this whole spiel, so you can just rewind back to front. Dave says the mechanics sell the game to GMs, art sells the game to players. I actually don't agree with that, Dave. Everybody likes the art. I mean, I would love if that were true. I don't really think you need to sell the players too much. I feel like GMs will buy it, they'll sell the players. And I think art helps with that. But I think a lot of GMs like art. I mean, look, I was on the drive, I was listening to the latest Between Two Cairns, and their first segment is about the art. And they'll talk about what they like or not like. And they're looking at it from a GM's perspective, not a player's perspective. So I don't know if that's an old saw, but I think especially now people really come to the art. But you're a really talented artist, so you're not. It's not like you got to worry about that part of it. But I think art sells a lot for everybody. Um, I mean, there's. I mean, obviously at some point where a GM's gonna fall in love with a mechanic potentially or not. But I think the first thing they see, the first thing that's probably gonna grab them is gonna be the art. And look, there's been a lot of games sold that weren't particularly mechanically innovative, but they had really good art, and that sold them. So um, art sells. Art sells. I think eventually, if you don't have really good content, you can't. The art will run out. I mean, I don't know. Run out's not the right word. There's a limit. Just over time, if your game has amazing art, but then it's just crap, eventually it'll be discovered that it's crap, and the art won't get you that far, right? Eventually, people go like, "Yeah, it's got beautiful art, but it's crap." However, that'll be down the line. You'll probably sell a bunch of copies off of the amazing art before the crap catches up. Before the crap part catches up, but it'll catch up. But I think it's much harder if you might have very innovative mechanics, but art or layout or both is just not. It's a more difficult hill to climb. I think. Um, I'm not nearly as big on art as a lot of people are because I don't play the art. So ultimately, the stuff I look for is, art's fun. I think it's nice. It can set a tone or whatever. But I am much more into like, what's the layout like? Can I read it? Can I navigate it? Can I get to the information and parse the information? Well, that's really what I'm looking for when I look at the layout, not so much the art. Because I do think that the art kind of fades in the background for me anyway, probably sooner rather than later. But there's no question that in today's environment, I feel like art and layout are super important. I mean, and layout to me is really important in terms of information communication, not so much in terms of pretty, but there's no question that pretty goes a long way. All right, what else we got? Anything else? Uh-oh, somebody's turning undead over there. Or attempting to turn undead over there. Oh, do they have a screen? So I just noticed they've got minis on top of a platform that's on a box, but I can't tell if there's a monitor or if it's just a flat thing. It's got to be just a thing, right? They didn't. Oh, no, wait a minute. Oh, it might be a monitor. Oh, man. I might have to check that out after I get over here. Dave says they're really impressed by art, probably because they can do it. Mechanics do impress me. Yeah, I mean, different people, different things definitely impress you. And yeah, maybe as an artist, it might hit you differently. That's totally fair. Like I said, I'm not someone who gets really wrapped up in the art. Like, ooh, that's pretty, but like, it's not gonna. It's not a big driver for me. But unquestionably it is for others. All right, so I'm probably going to wrap this thing up unless somebody has anything super compelling. I'm going to call it a stream. My first stream on location. Let me know how it went for you. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this afterwards. I might cut it up. I might do something else. But the stream will vanish. So apologies for that. But we'll see what I'll do with it. I'll take stock later on. All right, folks. I guess I'm going to call it. It was really great being here at Ecclesicon. Thanks to Wes, aka DM Tales, for inviting me and letting me set up here. And hopefully it was a fun stream. I put up a couple shorts. I will do a little bit more. I took some vloggy bits that I put up for channel members because I got to do something to support the channel members who support me. But I'm going to put them together into kind of a little mega vlog. I didn't do any vlogging today, but I've been here. But I'll probably vlog about it later, and then I'll kind of patch that into a video that I'll put up, and then we'll see about what I do with this once I get offline. But have a great rest of your day, night, whenever you end up watching or listening to this, everybody. On location at on location at Ecclesicon 2025. Signing off. Game on, everybody.